This is Jen Recknagel and
Elizabeth Bennett. Hi, guys.
hi, and welcome to the Documentary Storytelling for the Researchers Toolkit session. We're really happy to be here today to present some of our ongoing work around using documentary film for research and knowledge translation. So just to give you a little bit of background on ourselves, Elizabeth and I both work as research and strategy associates at Bridgeable, which is a research and design firm in Toronto that's focused on helping clients understand their consumers' experiences and needs, and then translating those needs into meaningful products and services. So Elizabeth is an applied anthropologist with many years experience working in the healthcare and consumer packaged goods sectors, and I'm a former documentary producer who's now switched over to working in strategic design. So as you can see, this firm, we're a highly interdisciplinary team working towards creating an integrated practice. And in this case, our collaboration has been focused around pushing the bounds of ethnographic story building and storytelling. So thanks for joining us today. So how does storytelling, and in particular documentary film, fit into the researcher's toolkit? Well, just to set the stage a little bit, it's worthwhile reflecting on the incredible rate in which information is growing and spreading, and in turn the way that this is changing not only the complexity of our knowledge, but the way that we are actually receiving and processing information. We live in a world of always-on technology where there's a constant flow of data coming at us from multiple channels and multiple sources. At the same time, the quality of our information is changing. It's now consumable, remixed, and modular. Consumable meaning that it's produced to be easily and quickly digested, to be consumed on the go and in bite-sized pieces. Remixed, meaning taken from multiple sources and matched up into new meaning, often without fact-checking or any kind of journalistic or academic rigor. And modular, consumed through multiple formats and multiple screens, and oftentimes simultaneously. This all leads to a very noisy environment, both for the producer attempting to communicate messages, as well as for the audience attempting to find meaning. So this is the reality of our information environment, which is shaping the way that we're thinking about the problem of knowledge transfer within the vendor-client relationship. We see our jobs as researchers as gathering information and transforming it into workable knowledge to bring forth a certain level of fidelity to help our clients understand the weak signals that are impacting their business.
So in this environment, we have to really help cut through the noise for our clients. This is really integral to making our work meaningful for them and to it having an effect on their organization. So ultimately, we want to help them understand their customers like we all do, but we are really thinking about doing that from the customer's perspective. So building empathy, seeing them from the inside, not from the outside looking in. So with this human-centered goal, we've really learned that one of the best ways to do this is to show rather than to tell. So with this in mind, we're leveraging video, but we're actually doing a sort of unconventional forms of video for client needs. So as Jen mentioned, because of our backgrounds, both of ours, but then within our company broadly, which is quite multidisciplinary, we've had the opportunity to explore a hybrid method that bridges the ethos of ethnography as a method for deeply understanding consumer needs with the conventions of broadcast documentary. And we're doing this with the goal of building a research documentary offering for clients. So just a really, really quick stop on ethnography. It's, as a method, not new, of course. I'm sure many of you are practitioners of applied ethnography involving the immersion of the researcher into the lived context of an informant. As a market and design research method, it's been used for many years in industry, and done well can really yield quite intense and deep human insight about people's lived experience. So how they're interacting with the world around them, how their context mediates their experience in turn, and the needs that really emerge from that. So there are many firms right now using video during ethnographic encounters, and oftentimes are sharing clips from videos taken by doing things like embedding them into PowerPoint presentations and so forth. And certainly this has some advantages. It's quite inexpensive. It's sort of quick and dirty to be able to bring clients closer to consumers in this way, assuming it's presented raw and shown in clip form. So this is where things veer off a little bit. For us, we have then, on the other hand, broadcast documentary, and this is a medium that has the power to convey powerful messages, and which is quite a different type of production ask and product than video clippings. So in our work, we've been really exploring and toying with finding some place between all of these approaches. We see that the attention to narrative and the quality of product that characterize broadcast-worthy documentary can really provide clarity and empathy for the human experience for our clients, and this can be very motivating for them. So having the opportunity to edit content, to craft a narrative, and really pay attention to the way an audience might receive information as we go through the process of post-production is what we can leverage to build a very compelling story. And this provides a story that clients can use as a strong scaffolding for their own interpretation of the human behind the lens. So this takes us to the bigger questions that we're really here to talk about today is how do we actually do this? When is it appropriate? When is it valuable? So from our ongoing exploration, we've contemplated and learned the following that we want to share with you today. We'll set things up by talking about a particular challenge or issue that we've been considering, and then providing some high-level thoughts on how to manage some of these issues.
So the first one we wanted to talk about today is really one of the main trade-offs that come with this sort of higher level of production, which is around the ability to establish intimacy with the informant. So it can be really difficult to build trust on camera, especially when there's multiple people in the room, while you're also managing all of the technical preparations for capture. It really demands the ability for the researcher to attune to multiple needs, to pay attention to what the cinematographer needs, what this sound recordist might need, while also engaging in the regular sense-making aspects of an ethnography, of really trying to understand the logic of somebody else's reality and how they might be making sense of the world. So the big question coming out of this is whether the filmmaking process itself might be disruptive to capturing the richest possible data sets for insights. And we believe the answer is possibly, but there are definitely ways to mitigate this risk. So how is this done? Firstly, it's really essential to pay attention to the informant's safety and security. Most people have little to no experience with being interviewed for a study, let alone participating in a film shoot. So as the director or researcher, your first task should always be checking in with the informant to make sure they're comfortable with who's going to be on the shoot, what everyone's role is, and more generally just to ensure that they have a very good sense of what to expect throughout the process. This way, any kind of lingering thoughts that might be in the back of their head are kind of just calmed down, and they're free to sort of be open to you and flow a little bit easier. It's also really crucial that they know that they can stop or not share at any point. I think that there's an increased pressure when there are more people around for people to feel that they have to participate or divulge, and it's just really important that they know for their own safety that it's totally 100% okay to sort of stop at any point. Secondly, we found that there's a need to humanize the crew, and that could sound a little bit off, but I think what we're really trying to say is broadcast professionals are respectful. However, there is a tendency to treat subjects more like props rather than value contributors. I think they're often used to sort of coming in and sort of running the show, and obviously in an ethnographic context, in a research context, this is just not really the way that things work. It's not totally acceptable. So it's important to take that extra step of ensuring that there's proper alignment around etiquette within research work and sort of the heightened sense of sensitivity that goes with ethnography.
A second area we're noting today is that in a broadcast documentary context, it's really key to think about who your audience is and how to convey information in a way that can compel them and move them. So these are the same kinds of considerations that exist, of course, just as strongly within a vendor-client relationship. So clients, like anyone else, they're an audience that will respond best to characters that they can connect to and who really stick in their minds and that they can hang on to. So it's really key to engage in a sort of casting process within recruiting when looking for a particular type of person that will be a good candidate not only to be representative of the research subject being explored, but somebody that is strong in front of a camera and can really connect. So in order to do this all effectively, it's really key to recruit with the goal of gaining clean sound bites in order to maintain audience attention and coherence, and really being sure and that informants will be able to connect emotionally and openly with an interview and be also reflective about their experiences. So somebody who's sort of naturally inclined that way. So as a result, there are some tactical considerations there. Recruiting criteria and the recruiting process are going to require more upfront investment of time and effort than in conventional research methods as a result. Thirdly, one of the limits of documentary actually is that one can't actually say as much content-wise as compared to a more conventional research report. This is really because the effective use of space and time means that it's important to insert pauses that allow people to see what is happening, to process what's going on, and not just receiving, a steady flow of words. So from a knowledge translation capacity, this can cut down on the amount of material that can be conveyed and the amount of insights that can be demonstrated in a span of, say, a 5, 10, or 20-minute piece. But on the other hand, the potential for that kind of information to stick, to have greater reach in this capacity, we would suggest really supersedes the limits of scope. So the power of editing, music, supporting imagery, and so on, these are all elements that enhance the depth and focuses the viewer and drives a deeper emotional connection with the insights. So how do we maximize the depth of this medium? So to go back a little bit to the previous issue discussed, a question that might arise when notions of casting for research comes up, combined with the need to have a smaller sample for this medium, is how do you actually know you're being sort of representative and robust in this kind of research? So the idea here, it's key to keep in mind, is that to build a story around a set of human experiences with a few voices, is that those few voices can represent a larger group. So knowing what you're representing in the documentary going in effect, doing some of your research before you do your research is one key way to not only cast effectively, but then to ensure that you're building your story in a strong and robust manner. So, and another point sort of related to this is that building a story that has maximal depth means also having the right team. So depending on budgets, having people with expertise in camera work and editing, sound, directing, producing, and so on can really shape up how a story appears and how much impact it can have.
So is it worth it? I think that's one of the big questions. And for the reasons outlined above, in our view, this type of translation tool most definitely is. However, it may not be suitable for every client in every case. From our own experiences trying to sell this work in, we started assessing fit based on a few key criteria, and we thought it might be useful to share some of that with you today. Obviously, the biggest and most pressing question around this kind of work is their budget. Doing things cheap and cheerful and down and dirty, whatever the case may be, usually involves working with generalists as opposed to specialists trained in cinematography and sound recording and story editing. This obviously raises production costs significantly, so in the end it comes down to whether or not you're able to sell a client on the benefits of a well-produced research documentary or not. We hope that we've left you with a little bit of ammo here today to sort of help that process happen. And secondly, one must always consider internal time and resources. A more robust translation artifact, it will take more time and demand a higher skill level, so it's important to take stock of your internal talent and determine how much of the budget is going to go towards hiring out. I know that sounds quite simple, but it can often get sticky if it's not really accounted for properly at the beginning. And I think there is sort of a tendency to believe as the tools of production become cheaper and more accessible, there's a tendency to think that anyone can just go out and shoot a video and get great results. However, although DSLRs have made this a lot more possible. The value of hiring professionals really will distinguish your insights and help transform them into an artifact that is both emotionally sticky and highly spreadable within your clients' networks. Lastly, it's really important to consider the end application. Is this research documentary going to be used internally or externally? Internally meaning for applications such as knowledge transfer and empathy building within an organization, or externally meaning to build awareness around a brand, or for maybe use as a thought leadership piece within the industry. In any case, it's important to be aware of what kind of content coverage you might need for each type of application. There's various technical and legal issues to be considered with each different type of use, such as identity closure, rights management, picture quality. However, managing for multiple outcomes will save a lot of time in the end, especially when your client comes back to you asking for you to repackage the content for another purpose. So for you, considering how and where you might be able to double up and double dip can act actually as an additional selling point to justify the extra cost if you're able to use your work for multiple purposes. So yeah, in closing, we're leaving you today with some solid insights into the value of this work, as well as some tangible steps on how to bring it to life. For us, this continued exploration that we've been having and this development of this research documentary method, the value of the craft lies in the ability to bring insights to life in a way that really transcends the barrier that exists between clients and their consumers. We all know that PowerPoint presentations and white papers only have so much reach in today's information economy, and whether we like it or not, most people, including our clients, expect information to be tight and snappy and easy to digest. So our view is that delivering insights through a research documentary has the capacity to build deep empathy and motivate audiences in a way that raw video clips or a simple text presentation cannot. Thank you very much, and we're happy to take any questions.